collector from. The social worker is called Rachel Myers, and she'll be able to fill you in on the specifics when you get up there. I grabbed a pen while Becky gave me the name and address of the school. That's about half an hour's drive from me, I said. When do they want me to get her? Ideally, as soon as possible, said Becky. Are you okay to go now? I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror and suddenly remembered the knit lotion. My hair looked like an oil slick. I can, but I'm afraid I look a bit of a state, I told her. Becky laughed as I explained about the knit lotion. Can't you quickly wash it out? She asked. Becky, this stuff costs £10 a bottle, I said. It's only been on for 10 minutes and you have to leave it on at least an hour for it to work. I don't want to fork out for another lot. Oh, Maggie, you do make me chuckle, she laughed. I'm sure nobody's going to care how you look. I knew she was right, but that didn't stop me from feeling slightly silly as I got into the car with my slicked-back greasy hair with its overpowering chemical smell. Michael wasn't due to be dropped off for another couple of hours, so at least it gave me plenty of time to get up to the school and back. As I drove, I thought about what Becky had told me. I had no idea what sort of situation I was about to face, and I was intrigued to know what had happened to this girl. A lot of carers shy away from fostering teens, but I had always enjoyed the challenge and I found them very interesting. It was also helpful having Louisa around when I was fostering a teenage girl, as they tended to look up to her. Eventually, I pulled up into the car park of the school, a huge modern secondary on the other side of town. I had a quick glance at my greasy hair in the rearview mirror and then walked across the car park to the front entrance, where there was an office behind a glass front. As I approached the hatch, a woman got up and came over to me. I'm Maggie Hartley, I explained. I'm a foster carer, here to see a Rachel Myers from Social Services. Oh yes, she said, they're expecting you. They're with Mrs. White. She's the head teacher. I followed her down a corridor where she knocked on a door. Come in, said a voice. This is Maggie Hartley, the foster carer, she explained. A woman in her early 30s was sitting behind a desk. She looked very businesslike in a trouser suit and shirt, and she seemed young to be the head of such a large secondary school. I'm Anna White, the head here, she smiled, shaking my hand. I knew instantly the other woman must be the social worker. She had that slightly frazzled look that many social workers have, and was dressed a lot more casually in black trousers and a grey waterfall cardigan. I could tell from the familiar colours of the lanyard she was wearing around her neck that she was from the local social services. Hi, I'm Rachel, Shazia's social worker, she said, standing up and shaking my hand vigorously. Thanks so much for getting here so quickly. Shazia? At least I had a name now. No problem at all, I said. I'm happy to help. So, Maggie, we'd better fill you in on what's been happening, said Rachel. Yes, it's been quite a morning, sighed Mrs. White. Rachel explained that Shazia was a Muslim and her parents were originally from Pakistan. This morning, Shazia's best friend Zina went to their form teacher and said that Shazia had locked herself in the toilet and was refusing to come out, Mrs. White explained. When Mrs. Roebuck asked why, Zina said it was because Shazia was scared as her parents were taking her to Pakistan this weekend and she was being forced into an arranged marriage with her cousin. Gosh, that hadn't been what I was expecting. I'd heard of forced marriages, of course, but naively I didn't think it was something that happened to young women living in our ordinary city. Zina said Shazia didn't want to go to Pakistan, and when she told her parents that, her dad and one of her brothers beat her up, Mrs. White continued. She went on to explain that after a lot of coaxing, the teacher had managed to persuade Shazia to come out of the toilet. She refused to answer mine or Mrs. Roebuck's questions, she said. In fact, she wouldn't say anything. However, we did see bruises on her neck and face, and that's when we decided to call social services. Have you talked to Shazia? I asked Rachel. She nodded. Yes, although she's not saying much. She swears that she made the whole thing up and was only joking. What about the bruises? I asked. Reckon she